I read the last chapter of my book Doormat because I'm a little bit forgot where I am with it. Chapter 35. The next morning Anne woke with a new sense of excitement as she walked to the travel agent, who was surprised to see her after such a short time. She felt like a lottery winner, and her hands were shaking as she signed the relevant forms. Anne couldn't believe that in just a few short days she would be flying to New York City. It was a dream come true. Over the next few days her excitement didn't die down, it just grew, and she tried her best not to be frightened. It was now or never, she thought. And then the day came, and when she saw the size of the plane on the runway, she felt like turning around. It looked so powerful and heavy that she was amazed that it would be able to get off the ground. It was another thought that she wished she didn't have. Anne sat in her seat and she waited for the inevitable rumble and the shake of the engines to begin. It was like waiting to go on the world's scariest fairground ride, she thought. Anne closed her eyes and she wished that she could fall asleep quickly, and then the plane began to shake and shudder as it moved along the runway. Anne's heart was in her mouth and she gripped the arms of the seat tightly. She quickly looked round at the other passengers and she wondered if any of them were as frightened as she was. The plane went quicker and then it took off with a rush. Anne was pressed hard into her seat. Please don't crash, she said to herself as she breathed out in relief as the plane climbed even higher. Oddly, the higher it climbed, the less fearful she became. Soon she was above the clouds and the world below grew smaller and smaller. It was an amazing feeling, and her fears of crashing lightened. If the plane did indeed crash, at least she would be going out in style, she thought. The last thing she wanted was a boring life. After a while they flew over the ocean, and it seemed to go on forever. Anne was amazed how much there was. She looked out of the window for hours and her worries melted away. Then she saw more sailing boats and ships, and she looked up and she saw the Statue of Liberty and the skyscrapers shimmering in the sunshine. It was an amazing sight and it took her breath away. Never in her life had she seen a sight so impressive. It made her tearful and proud of herself. She'd definitely come a long way from her boring little town. The closer she got to the buildings, the more it seemed like she was in a movie. After all, she'd seen many of the sights on television, and she looked down and she could see Central Park below and the people rushing about like ants. She couldn't wait to get onto the ground and explore, but she had no idea where she would go first. I'll have to buy a guidebook, she thought, as the last thing she wanted was to get lost in the maze of New York. It was a scary thought. After announcement, the plane began to descend. Lucky it was a smooth landing with no bumps. Anne was relieved and excited, and she couldn't believe how far she'd come in life. She walked down the steps of the plane and she looked up at the skyscrapers, which seemed to have no end, and the icy blue sky, and she smiled a confident smile. Not such a doormat now, she thought to herself happily. That's the positive end of my book, Doormat. Hope you enjoyed it.